On behalf of the City of Dayton, I'd like to welcome you all and thank you beforehand for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend the City of Dayton's virtual Industrial Pretreatment Program meeting. This Industrial Pretreatment Program meeting will include introductions of the current staff, changes to the pretreatment department, the status of local limits, monitoring requirements and reporting changes, and how they affect permitted industries, changes to the PRCC, the periodic reporting on continued compliance forms, and additional items of note. Following this presentation, there'll be a question and answer session. Since last June's virtual meeting, there's been a change in the Industrial Pretreatment Office personnel. Andrea Moore, who was the pretreatment coordinator for a lot of the industries here, she's taken on another position within the wastewater industry. So it's my pleasure to add these industries that she was responsible for. It's my pleasure to be your assigned industrial pretreatment coordinator at this time. For those industries and all industries regulated in the program, please don't hesitate to contact me if there's any questions concerning the industrial pretreatment program. I can be contacted at 937-333-1863, or feel free to email me at inez.pryor@daytonohio.gov if there's any questions concerning the industrial pretreatment program. First of all, we'll touch on local limits. A little background on the City of Dayton's local limits updates. On June the 5th, 2023, the City of Dayton's Industrial Pretreatment Group conducted a virtual Teams meeting with permitted industries and other interested groups detailing the justification of local limits for the city's POTW. The General Pretreatment Regulations 40 CFR Part 403 require that each POTW with a pretreatment program develop and enforce local limits which will establish the maximum loading of pollutants that can be accepted by their treatment facilities. This presentation on how the local limits were developed is available on the city's website, www.daytonohio.gov. Industrial Pretreatment Program presentations listed as the proposed local limits presentation, June 5th, 2023. Just a little refresher on why local limits for the city have been developed. Local limits address the specific needs and concerns of a POTW, its sludge, and its receiving waters. The General Pretreatment Regulations 40 CFR Part 403 require that each POTW with a pretreatment program develop and enforce local limits, which will establish the maximum loading of pollutants that can be accepted by their treatment facilities. Most of the general prohibited discharge standards specified in 40 CFR 403.5 are not specific pollutant limitations. As a result, a POTW must evaluate its facility's capabilities and establish local limits to protect it from receiving waste that pass through or interfere with operations, including sludge management. These local limits are intended to protect the POTW, including collection system infrastructure, receiving waters, workers' health and safety, and sludge disposal practices. The City of Dayton's NPDES permit was renewed by the Ohio EPA effective date May 1st, 2022. The renewed NPDES permit required a justification of the local limits for our specific wastewater treatment plant. The City of Dayton's local limits justification was submitted to the Ohio EPA on October 21st, 2022. The Ohio EPA reviewed the justification, accepted the local limits by the city, and submitted a public notice in early June of 2023. And the city presented the draft local limits to significant industrial users via Teams meeting on June 5th, 2023. There were no public comments submitted to the Ohio EPA by June 26th, 2023. So the Ohio EPA gave final approval on June 28th, 2023. The city presented the final local limits in the Dayton Daily newspaper on August 6th, 2023. The effective date for the final local limits will be October 1st, 2023. The approved local limits are shown. Specific limitations approved for the pollutants are for arsenic, cadmium, chromium, copper, cyanide-free, cyanide total, lead, mercury, molybdenum, nickel, silver, zinc, phosphorus, sulfate, and sulfide. Changes from the last local limits up development back in 2018 include the addition of the one-day maximum limitations for cyanide-free and limitations for phosphorus, sulfate, and sulfide. The new cyanide-free limitation is a numeric effluent discharge limitation, one-day maximum. Phosphorus, sulfate, and sulfide do not have a specific numeric value, limit value, but are under best management practices or BMPs, which are POTW permit conditions to prevent or control the discharge of these pollutants. BMPs include but are not limited to source control measures, pretreatment, waste minimization, spill prevention, and pollution prevention. So what do these new local limits changes mean for significant industrial users, or the SIUs? The obvious change is that the previous limitations will be considered obsolete and no longer pertain to the industrial users. A modified industrial waste discharge permit or industrial waste zero discharge permit will be or has been issued to all significant industrial users, detailing this change in the local limits on the permit. A change in the industrial wastewater discharge permit limits and the fact sheet will include the limit updated for each parameter. The city's NPDES permit requires that each control document, i.e. the industrial wastewater discharge permit and/or the industrial wastewater zero discharge permit, include the local limits within a 4-month period of final approval by the Ohio EPA. So effective October 1st, 2023, all local limits established by the city will be applied to all permitted IUs subject to local discharge limitation and monitoring is required. So there's no monitoring waivers. It was determined that all permitted industrial users are subject to local discharge limitation and monitoring should be required. As such, no monitoring waivers will be given at this time. So how does this affect the permitted industries? Local limits for all pollutants will be applied to permitted industries at a frequency determined by the city. For categorical industrial users, CIUs are required to sample, analyze, and report all pollutants covered under their categorical standard on a monthly or quarterly, if eligible, basis. For CIUs, all pollutants that have both categorical and local limits, the most stringent limitation will apply. For CIUs, if there's any local limitation only for a pollutant and the CIU is considered a contributor of that pollutant, the CIU must sample, analyze, and report on a monthly or quarterly basis. And for CIUs that is considered a non-contributor of a, let me try this again, is considered a non-contributor of a particular pollutant, and there's no categorical limit for that pollutant, the frequency of sampling and analysis is semi-annually. For significant industrial users or the SIUs, SIUs are required to sample and analyze for pollutants in which they are considered contributors on a monthly basis or quarterly if they're eligible. For SIUs, if the SIUs are considered a non-contributor of a particular pollutant, the frequency of sampling and analysis is semi-annual. So how does this affect the permitted industries in semi-annual monitoring? Why are we doing that? One, to offset the pretreatment cost to industries while maintaining compliance with 40 CFR 403 regulations requirements. In order to offset the cost of analyses, the minimum number of samples to remain compliant within 40 CFR 403 regulations has been implemented. 403 or 40 CFR 403 regulations require that a minimal number of sampling events be conducted on an annual basis. The city has elected to require the minimal number of sampling events semi-annually for each pretreatment year for industries discharging wastewaters with pollutants that are not present or expected to be present. Semi-annual sampling is required to be conducted in April and October. The periodic report on continued compliance and the associated laboratory reports for the semi-annual samples is required to be submitted the 15th of the month following the reporting period for your industry. So for monthly reporting requirements, if you're on the monthly schedule, if a sample is collected in April, the semi-annual sample results to be submitted by May the 15th. And then for a sample collected in April for those facilities that are on the monthly reporting requirements, the semi-annual samples are required to be submitted by July 15th. And just a reminder that for semi-annual sampling, the reminder is that the first semi-annual monitoring period will begin this October. So just kind of wanted to reiterate that just so, because that's so there's no question about or any, it will start on this October. So on this slide is a copy of Table 1 of an industrial wastewater discharge permit with updated local limits and sample frequencies added. Under the first column, the parameters that are permitted for your industry are listed. Next to it, the limitations, either numeric or best management practices, are listed by each parameter. The numeric daily maximum limits in milligrams per liter are listed beside each associated parameter. For those that do not have a numeric limit, best management practices are listed. We will discuss these limits shortly on another slide. For those parameters that do not have established numeric limits, they are required to follow best management practices. In Part 1, Section D of your permits, best management practices are detailed for phosphorus, sulfate, and sulfide. Local limits requirements for phosphorus may require a user to eliminate or reduce the discharge of phosphorus to the city's wastewater treatment plant. Users may be required to investigate, quantify sources of phosphorus in their discharge, eliminate the discharge of phosphorus if feasible, or develop and implement a set of measures that will apply all known, available, and reasonable means of prevention, control, and treatment to reduce the discharge of phosphorus to the maximum extent practicable. These measures include, but are not limited to, pretreatment, pollution prevention, recycling, substitution, waste minimization, source reduction, source elimination, spill prevention, and implementation of best management practices. Documentation or monitoring results to verify that the discharge has been eliminated may be required. Local limits requirements for sulfate and sulfide. The city encourages all industrial users continue to reduce sulfate and or sulfide content through source reductions methods and implementation of best management practices. I mentioned earlier that we have considered the cost of these additional analyses. To comply with 40 CFR 403 regulations, the minimal number of monitoring, sampling analyses must be conducted. There is a cost associated with the analyses. The maximum additional cost for collection and analyzing all of the parameters, if you included every parameter on there, it's estimated to fall between $150 to $300 per year, depending upon laboratory cost. This, however, is determined to be high since many industries have already been analyzing for some or most of the local limits pollutants as part of their current permit requirements. Due to the local limits updates, the periodic report on continued compliance has also been updated. The next few slides will depict and highlight the changes that have been made to the standard form. The new form for permitted industries. At the top, under monitoring period, please document the monitoring period from which the sample was taken. No substantial changes to the first page have been made, but the items to note are the monitoring period dates at the top of page 1 must be filled out appropriately. The submitting reports on a monthly basis include the first to last days of the month within the monitoring period. If you're reporting on a quarterly basis, please report the quarter within the monitoring period. Please note that the quarterly periods are January 1st through March 31st, April 1st through June 30th, July 1st through September 30th, and October 1st through December 31st. The new PRCC forms are required to be submitted for monitoring reporting events starting October 1st, 2023. Page 1 of the PRCC. Again, fill out the correct monitoring period at the top of page 1. Document whether flow averages are measured or estimated. Fill out the time proportional composite or flow proportional composite sampling as required on your industrial waste discharge permit. And fill out the grab sampling section as required by the industrial waste discharge permit. On the second page of the PRCC, please note that additional parameters have been added. Free cyanide, phosphorus, sulfate, and sulfide are new to the standard form that's been in use. Please verify in respective permits the sample type, composite, or grab that you are required to use. Some industries may have additional parameters that they are required to report. This is not a change to the reporting requirements, but the reporting of the method detection limit should also be discussed. The method detection limit, or MDL, is defined as the minimum measured concentration of a substance that can be reported with 99% confidence that the measured concentration is distinguishable from method blank results. In simpler terms, the MDL is the lowest amount of a particular substance that can be detected from a blank result. MDLs can change when an instrument has had a significant sensitivity change, be it a new instrument or detector. New personnel, they run an instrument, or an annual review and calculations as required by NPDES. The method detection limit values for any substance is not the same as a local limit value for a POTW. The local limit values are those site-specific numeric or narrative discharge limits that protect the plant, receiving waters, workers' health and safety, and sludge disposal practices, while method detection limits are strictly for instrument sensitivity. A change to the city's POTW local limits does not correlate to a change to an individual laboratory's MDL or change MDLs. Laboratories do occasionally change the method detection limit for their instruments, so please be sure to note what the method detection limit is on all analytical reports submitted to you and report this data on the PRCC. Other items to discuss on page 2 of the PRCC. Concentration. Be sure that the units are correct. Be sure to fill out the appropriate concentration and report down to the method detection limit. Fill out leading zeros as noted on the analytical report. For example, say there's an arsenic result. The laboratory provides an arsenic result of 500 milligrams per liter, or micrograms per liter, excuse me, as reported by the laboratory. This should be documented on the sheet as 0.5 milligrams per liter, not 0.5 milligrams per liter. Without the leading zero prior to the numbers following the decimal, it's easy to have incorrect numbers placed in the reporting system. Please check the sample type and verify that it matches what's required on the industrial waste discharge permit. If the industrial waste discharge permit states that the sample should be collected as a composite, please collect and report as composite. Again, verify the MDL on each report. Laboratories periodically recalculate an instrument's MDL, so this may change. I mentioned it in the previous slide, but I want to emphasize that this does change, so please review the contact laboratories analytical reports, MDLs. On page 3 of the PRCC, on the third page, as circled in the lime green color, the authorized representative is now required to print his or her name as well as the job title, date, and written signature in ink. Also noted on page 3, circled in dark pink, are 2 certification statements. The first statement applies to all permitted industries. The statement is an affirmation that the operations of the facility during the period of sampling is considered representative of normal operations, and the results of analyses represent the effluent being discharged. It's also certification that the document and all attachments were prepared under direction or supervision of the authorized representative, and that the information submitted is to the best of the representative's knowledge and belief true, accurate, and complete. The TTO certification statement is required for those industries that have toxic organic management plans. Toxic organic management plans, or TOMs, are written plans submitted by industrial users as an alternative to total toxic organics, or TTOs, monitoring, which specifies the toxic organic compounds used, the method of disposal used, and procedures for assuring that toxic organics do not routinely spill or leak into wastewater discharged to the POTW. This option is available for regulated industrial users in the electroplating, metal finishing, and electrical and electronic components. It's certifying that to the best of the representative's knowledge and belief that there was no dumping of concentrated toxic organics into the waste stream has occurred since the last statement was filled, and that the industry currently has a current toxic organic management plan on file with the city. Please carefully read the certification statement or statements before signing. Page 4 of the PRCC. There are no changes to this page, but items to note include, please be sure to note that all reports must be received complete and accurate. This includes the addition of the analytical reports from the contract laboratory. Reports can be hand-delivered, mailed by the USPS, UPS, FedEx, etc., or hand-delivered to our facility, or faxed to the pretreatment office with a hard copy mail follow-up. Occasionally, industrial users conduct more monitoring analyses than what is required on their permit. This log of additional self-monitoring can be used for reporting purposes in this case. Items to note include, or are highlighted in plum, the certification statement affirming that the operations of the facility during the period of sampling is considered representative of normal operations, and the results of the analyses represent the effluent being discharged. The authorized representative name, signature, title, and date are highlighted in green. The sample type, highlighted in blue. Be sure to indicate and circle which sampling type was conducted. Highlighted in brown, the date, the flow in gallons per day, and the analytical result for each parameter to be reported. If more than one sample was analyzed, please indicate the average value, and that's highlighted in purple, and also highlighted in orange as the method detection limit should be reported, as well as any additional comments. For those permitted industries that are zero dischargers of permitted wastewaters, items to note on this form include: in orange, please document the monitoring period at the top of the form. Again, the quarterly monitoring periods are January 1 through March 31st, April 1 through June 30th, July 1 through September 30th, and October 1 through December 31st. The next monitoring period starts on October 1st. Highlighted in green, in lime green, is the certification statement. Again, this is certifying that there is no discharge of categorical or otherwise regulated wastewater in accordance with your zero discharge permit. The representative is also certifying that the document and attachments have been prepared in accordance with a system designed to assure that qualified personnel properly gathered and evaluated the information submitted. Also, that the information submitted is to the best of your knowledge and belief true, accurate, and complete. Please be sure to review prior to signing the report. Highlighted in red, under the certification statement, the authorized representative is now required to print his or her name, his or her title, and document the date and sign in ink. Not highlighted, but I wanted to point out are just the reporting details, including where the report is to be sent, and when the report is due, and how the report can be sent to the city. The periodic report on continued compliance forms changes the new PRCC forms. Again, the new PRCC forms are required to be submitted for monitoring and reporting events starting October 1st, 2023. Old report forms will not be accepted by the program after this date. Submittal of old and or unaccepted forms may result in non-acceptance of the report and enforcement action for late reporting or inaccurate or incomplete reporting. Some industries have had specialized forms accepted by the city due to the number of samples and or the types of parameters that they are required to analyze for. Please contact the Industrial Pretreatment Office for acceptance of the format changes required. All permitted industries have been sent a copy of the new forms to the Postal Service and by email. These forms are also available on the city's website, listed there, www.daytonwater.org. Other items of note, one of the changes to the industrial pretreatment program will include the electronic data submittal of required reports, the monthly and quarterly reports to the city. This inclusion will require a change to the pretreatment information software system that we're currently using, EPA approval, and updates to the City of Dayton sewer use ordinance. We anticipate this change will occur no later than late 2024, but more likely 2025. More information will be made available to the SIUs at a future date as we move further along in the process. Also, the industrial pretreatment program will be continuing to conduct industrial pretreatment training sessions. The Industrial Pretreatment Office has been looking at ways to improve our program and to aid in communication of relevant topics to our industrial customers. One such way is to conduct quarterly meetings and training sessions for interested parties. The meetings are not required, however, they may be helpful for all industrial users in our program. The meetings will be held virtually and will be recorded for future viewing. They may be used to provide answers to common issues that are encountered in the program and as a training aid for those new to the program. The recordings will be available on the city's website. Now, you can open this presentation up for questions. If you don't have a microphone, please type your question using the chat feature.
Hi, Inez. This is
Hello.
Misha from Cargill. A specific question, but we weren't able to find the sign-in sheet in the chat box. Are you able to send that in the chat so we can all sign up?
Okay, yes, I can send that. I can send that to. Yes, I can send that to you shortly.
Thank you.
Oh, right. Let's see.
Inez?
Yes.
Hi, this is Bill Myers with Malt Products. Just a quick specific question. The parameter sheet that you showed us,
Yes.
does that sheet come to each company modified to what they do? I'm asking because the sheet you showed us and the sample frequencies on the paperwork that we got with our permits don't match up.
Okay, if there's a discrepancy from what's on your permit and then what's the sample frequency table that you received, you're saying it does not match their permit requirements?
It doesn't match the sheet that you showed us on the screen. You have like monthlies for everything.
No, well, no, okay, no, that's just the form that we showed on the screen. That's just kind of a generic form.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Oh, that leads me to the next comment, though. That you reminded me, if there is a discrepancy, you all should have received your copy of of the updated permits. And there was also a sample frequency table, that was enclosed with that permit. If there's any discrepancy between the sample frequency, table and what's listed on your permit, please notify me so we can make that correction. So, but just long story short, your permit should be correct in their sample frequency table. That was created using your industrial waste discharge permit. So, but again, if there's any discrepancies or any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me.
I know this is Aaron Bennett with DMF. So when I'm filling out the top of the form for our measuring timetable, when I'm doing my semi-annual in October and in September, do I need to put from October to September and from September to October, or I just put in the month-to-month date like I do on my monthlies?
You just put the month-to-month, for that particular month. Okay, say you're doing a sampling event for October, you would just put that month period of time at the very
Okay,
top
thank
of
you.
the sheet. And then, now it's up to me to determine, to see, okay, do you have your October sampling done for your semi-annual sampling done? If so.
Yeah. All right, gotcha.
Hi, Inez. This is Doug Myers with Cargill. How are you?
Hello. Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good.
When were the updated permits sent out? Because I haven't seen one for our facility, and I'm not sure who it may have gone to. And we have an individual out on FMLA, so I'm just trying to track down the updated permits.
Okay, actually, they were sent out in mid August, and actually, one of your contacts, they contacted me a couple of days ago, stating, I believe that there was questions about the permit, but I will certainly,
Mhm.
if you, I can certainly send you a copy of the permit if you don't have that. So if you're not, if you don't have it available, so I can also send you a scanned copy at this point. So,
Sure.
and then,
Thank you.
okay, you're welcome. Are there any other questions? I'm all ears here, so.
Good afternoon, Inez. This is John Bowman over at Allied Motion here in Dayton.
Hello.
Hi there. Is there any chance that you have the electronic version of your periodic report? I've got the hard copy, but I didn't see an electronic version.
Yes, did you, I sent out an email, couple of weeks ago, actually, with the electronic version on there, but I could, I will certainly send you another one, and let me document that down. You'll be getting it after this presentation. Also, the electronic version of that will also be available on the city's website. So if there's any, if you can't get a hold of me, then that's all that information will be available on the city's website for quick access if you need it.
All righty, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, well, there's any, are there any other questions? Well, if you have any questions about this presentation or about the city's industrial pretreatment program, please contact my office at 937-333-1863 or the main number 937-333-1501. Or you can also email me at inez.pryor@daytonohio.gov. I also wanted to make sure that please fill out the sign-in sheet that's available on the chat feature. I put the link in at the very bottom of the chat feature, so if you wanted to sign it, just hit the link. And then that should ask 3 questions, three questions, and then you'll be signed in. Okay. So I just wanted to say that all attendees will receive a copy of this presentation via email. And if you don't have any more questions, or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me later. But with this, the City of Dayton's September 28th, 2023 Industrial Pretreatment Program virtual meeting has concluded. And I'd like to thank you all for attending. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.